Okay, we're going to pick up where we left off last time. This is video 3. So you should have your Dreamweaver style sheet set up, and you should have your preferences set up and so forth, so that you have auto completion tags. Now I want to take you back really quickly to look at this file that we're going to kind of emulate for the demonstration. And again, I want to remind you, we've got this top navigation section, and then we've got an actual section here that has all of these articles, and if I click and I jump to different articles, you see they're all contained within the section that's in the center. And you see also, I said before, is it auto centers, okay, which helps because it makes it more responsive for different media sizes. Excuse me for that. Anyway, so let's go ahead and let's start making some stuff. Let's make some things over here in our display view. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of where it says something and something else. And the first thing that I want to notice is that we've got a list of things called link 1. We've got link 2. And by the way, I'm just hitting the enter key in between link 3 and link 4. Okay? And you'll notice over here that what it's done is it's put these all in paragraphs. Well, that's fine. In fact, it's really simple in Dreamweaver if you just make a bunch of paragraphs and then you select the items that you want to put into a list, and then you go ahead down in the Properties panel, and if this isn't visible, you go up to Window and you tell it to show the Properties panel. And down here in the Properties panel, what you want to do is you want to select this bullet icon. It's referred to as an unordered list, and you click it, and see what it did is it changed the tags over here on the left side, and what it did was it put each link 1, link 2, link 3, link 4 inside of what's referred to as a list item tag. So it goes li, and then it has the text, and then it ends the list item. And then you'll notice that all of these list items are nested within some tags called ul. That ul is referred to as an unordered list, and this is the way that the markup looks, and that's normal. Also, I want you to notice something. If I highlight in the code view, if I highlight this entire UL and I hit the tab key, in Dreamweaver it doesn't delete it, it just tabs it in. And this is really nice because it helps you visually see how things are nested in your code view. It's a very good practice. Okay, so first thing is first, we've got that list, and now the other thing is we have some other stuff in there, some articles and things like that. But before we go too far, I want to just help you figure out something about this top. The thing about this top is that it is not just an unordered list. Because it's actual navigation, there is a tag that you can use, or that you should use in HTML5, that helps screen readers and assistive devices, and as well also search engines, understand that that is in fact navigation. So what you can do over here in the code view is you can select from beginning the UL tag to the ending UL tag, and then if you do on a Mac you do Command T, or on PC Control T as in Tom, it pops up where it says wrap tag, and it's asking what tag do you want to wrap it with. So if you type the word nav and hit enter, you might have to hit enter twice. What it does is it wraps that unordered list, and I can just visually separate it. It wraps the unordered list inside of a set of nav tags, and that's really the right way to do it in terms of correct markup. Okay, and so what I want to do is I want to give this nav what's referred to as an ID, and there I could just type it here if I wanted, but I also want to show you another way. If you look over down in properties, you see that it's asking me to refresh because I made some changes. So if I hit refresh, now I have my options again, and you'll see that there's an ID here. Instead of saying none, let's type and make sure that nav is selected, by the way. So let's type main nav, like that, okay? And hit enter, and you see what it did for you is it automatically adds this thing called an attribute equals, and then it's the value of the attribute inside of quotation marks. So what that's doing is it's saying, okay, this nav tag has the ID of main nav applied to it. This is going to help us with our styling. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and let's just look real quickly one more time, refer to this. So this again is the nav up here, and notice that stuff disappears up underneath it when I scroll. Well, okay, first of all we have to make the other stuff. So the next thing would be to have all these articles, but notice that the articles are nested inside of something larger. So what I'm going to do is come back over here, and in my code view, and by the way, I'm doing a lot of this stuff in code view because even though I'm using CS6, even though in CS6 HTML5 is supported, it doesn't allow you to insert the proper tags, ironically, by using AP elements. You might have learned that somewhere else, but it's just going to insert something called div. That's generic. I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a tag that's called section, and you see it starts to pop up. I can just hit enter, and then if I close that, it automatically gives me the closing tag section. Alright, and then I'm going to nest a bunch of stuff inside of section, but you're going to notice also that the code starts to get a little bit confusing to look at whenever you just have a bunch of stuff just hanging out in here. So what I'm going to do is before line 10, I'm going to hit the return key. And by the way, this white space inside of the HTML is meaningless as long as you're not in this white space is not meaningless because you're inside of a tag, and you know, so anything inside of the tags is not meaningless white space, but anything outside of tags is meaningless white space. It doesn't get read by the browser as anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called a comment. A comment is something the browser skips over, but it's going to really help me see what I'm looking at as I'm typing. So I'm going to type the words like in caps or something. This is the main navigation or something like that bar. Okay, so if I highlight that, because I don't want that to show up in my design view, see, I don't want it to look like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that, and then off on the right side there are these little bubbles, and if you click on the top bubble it'll say apply comment. You click it and you say apply HTML comment, and what that does is it allows the browser to just skip right over this, and it just doesn't pay any attention to it. And I like to do this, and then you can type anything that's inside of these. This is the beginning of that tag, and this is the ending part of that tag. Anything that I type inside of here will end up being read, I should say not being read by the browser, and so I can make it really obvious. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm actually going to put it right before the section also, and I'm going to say this is the main content of the page or something like that. Okay, so this is going to help me really clearly start to delineate the different parts of the page whenever I glance into the code view. This is very, very helpful. I promise. It's worth taking the time to do it. Okay, so now we have this section, and there's nothing in it, so you can't really see anything over here. But the next thing I want to do is I want to add some different articles. So if you look back at our example, you see that we've got, when we click on this, it'll jump to these different articles. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go ahead and type in, see I start to type article, I can complete that, and then it ends it for me. And then before I start to duplicate this, I want to type some stuff that I would want to go in each article. So at the beginning of every article, it's kind of nice whenever you have articles to do this properly. It helps also with screen readers and with search engines, is that you can have a section called a header. You don't have to make it look like anything, but it's just nice to have a header, and that's maybe where your title or your subtitle would go. So let's have, so we create a header inside the article, and then inside of that we're going to have a heading, and that would be an H1. There are all these different heading levels. There's H1, H2, H3, and so forth, but H1 is the top, and if you're going to have an H2, you have to have an H1 above it. If you're going to have an H3, you have to have an H2 above that, and so forth. So they have to be nested properly. For our purposes, I'm just going to put an H1 on the page, and I'm going to type inside of it, I'm going to type this is where the link 1 stuff goes. Okay? All right, I'm going to do something like that. Now, if I take this article, first of all, if I click here, you see that's what it's going to look like for right now. Don't worry how ugly this is. We're going to style it in a minute. So I'm going to take this article, I'm going to copy it. Actually, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that now. And then you could say this is where link 2 goes. Okay? And so on and so forth. This is where link 3 goes. And finally, this is where link 4 goes. Okay, so now if I click over in display view, you see that all of these things are showing up. Okay? Okay, so now that we've gotten that far, the next thing that you are probably trying to figure out is like, how do we first of all get these links, the actual clickable links, how do we get them horizontal and not vertical? How do we get the bullets off of them? How did you make these not be stacked all on top of each other like you did here where there's a bunch of space separating? Well, a lot of that stuff is going to be, all of that stuff is going to be styling. Okay, so now that we've got the basic HTML markup set in here, I'm going to also do something else because you start to see that these articles can get confusing to look at in the code view. So I'm actually going to go ahead real quickly and I'm going to take the time to make comments before each one. And I'm going to say this, I should have done this I guess ahead of time, but this is article 1 content or something like that. And then I'll put a comment around it. And then I can copy that. Actually, I'm going to say this is the start of article 1 content. And then I can come down here, I can copy it, make sure that I'm at the beginning of my other article, and I can just put article 2. And I promise you later this is really helpful when you start putting a lot of content in and the stuff gets really long and it's not so easy to look at. And then we say article 4. And if you wanted, you could go back, and this might seem ridiculous now, but you could also come back down underneath the end of each article and say this is the end of article 1 content. Alright, and then we'll do that again down here. This is the end of article 2 content. Alright, I'm going to do that for each one. This is the end of article 3 content. And finally, we have, this is the end of article 4 content. Okay, sorry about the phone call. Anyway, so now we have some of all of the basic markup. I'll go ahead and save it. And just so you could see what it looks like, if you go to this little globe up here and you say preview, I'm going to preview mine in Chrome. I like Chrome. And then this is what it looks like right now. Right? Doesn't look anything at all like that. Okay, we'll get there. And then it opens it up in what is a temporary file. Okay. And if yours asks you, do you want to save it first, you can either save it, or if you want to do it so that you don't have to save it, you can go up to Dreamweaver and you can go back to Preferences, and underneath where it says Preview in Browser, you can tell it that you want to preview using a temporary file. If you click that, it won't make you save it before you preview your changes. Okay? So I'm going to click OK, and then go ahead and... Okay, I'm going to end this demo, and then we'll move forward in the next one.